Hello everyone, welcome to Honara's Arts and Lifestyle channel. Today I'm going to show you how to decorate a Lakshmi face or a Durga face. Now when I say face, I'm actually talking about the silver mukuta that we get in jewelry shops like this, which can actually be used to tie to a coconut and keep it for kalash. This is how I have decorated the Lakshmi mukuta already. Now I'm going to show you the same thing for Durga idol because Navaratri is coming in shortly. This is not a silver mukuta. This is actually aluminium mukuta, but this is more than enough to demonstrate how to decorate it. So we start by painting eyes and lips for this goddess. So the basic thing that we need for that is we need brushes. Okay, we just need one brush, but I'm just showing you the brush set that I already have. And we need paints. Okay, so for the paint, I'm using ancient paints here. I've seen many videos where people have used various things to actually paint this. Okay, they have used eyeliners to paint the eyes, or they have used nail polish to paint the eyes and lips and all. But my dear friends, so all of these things wear off after a few wash or even just in one wash. Okay, this Asian paints, it doesn't go even if you scrub. And if you are using these kind of mukuta in just once a year, believe me, these are going to stay as long as 7 to 8 years and you don't have to worry at all. Okay, so that's the most positive thing about using these ancient paints. It's not mandatory that you have to use ancient paints itself in the brand. You can use any other brands. Just make sure that it is a gloss enamel paint. Okay, that is the oil-based paint and it is glossy. So in these paints, I've got red color and black color and white. Now when it comes to the brush, there are different sizes and brushes which are available. Okay, it starts with size 0, size 1, then this is size 2, size 3, size 4, size 5, size 6, like that. As you can see, this is the synthetic hair brush that I'm going to use. So the most preferable size for me is somewhere between 0 to 4. Okay, so I usually use something like 1 or 2 because when I'm drawing the eyes, the eyeliner, the lids and all, it has to be really thin. So when you're buying a brush, just make sure that it is covered and protected like this. Okay, so you can see that they have a small tube that they actually use to protect the hairs of the brush, and the hair shouldn't be going, in the haphazard direction. And if it goes like that, it won't be easy for you to paint. So it should all be straight and together. Okay, that is the most important thing, and it should have soft hair. That is why we use synthetic hair brush. Now, because these are oil paints, we cannot actually use water to thin this paint in case if required. Okay, or we cannot use water to wash this brush. So that is why I have actually used an enamel thinner. Okay, so this is a normal enamel thinner or turpentine that you can find in the paint shops. So we need to use this. So now, just before I open all of these paint boxes, let me tell you that these are quite old. Okay, these are almost like 1 or 2 years old paint boxes that I have. And I actually prefer to use old paints when it comes to enamel paint because they are slightly thick and you don't need to apply multiple coats to make it look bright. So just a single coat is sufficient to color it. Now let me show you what happens if you use a new one. Okay, I just use the backside of a spoon to open it. It's much easier. This orange is a fairly new one. Okay, so as you can see, can you see a small layer of oil which is floating here? So this is also a little old. This must be somewhere around 6 months old. And I must have discarded this top layer of oil. But if you're buying something really new, okay, you're going to have at least half an inch of oil floating on top of the paint. Okay, it is that oil that actually protects the paint from drying. So what you will have to do is you will have to discard this oil and then use the backside of the brush or the backside of the spoon to mix it thoroughly. Okay, and only then you can use that particular paint for painting. So without mixing, if you are going to use, then what happens is the top layer is going to be very thin and the bottom layer is going to be a thick paint. So if you're using the thin paint, doesn't matter how many coats you apply, it will not be thick enough to be shown And the second one is it starts dripping down, okay, like drop by drop it starts coming down and it's very unpleasant. And I'm going to start with black, so for the eyes. So let me just open the black one. So this is how an old paint looks like, okay. So you can see it has become very thick at the sides, and that paint cannot be used. You can only use a liquid form of the paint, okay, either from the lid or from here. So dear friends, when you are buying a mukuta, you don't have to be very particular that the eyes and lips are not defined nicely and all that, because we are going to use the paint and we are going to cover the imperfections. Like for example, in this mukuta, this eyes is perfect, okay. If you look at the lids and the eyebrows and everything, it's perfect. But for this eyes, it's not. So we don't have to worry about all these things because these will be covered, okay. Now before I color it with the black, I want to color the inside part of the eyes with white. So if it is a very old paint, this is how it dries up. So what happens is you have this top thick layer which turns into rubber. And if you pull it, as you can see, the inside part is a liquid. So even this can actually be used for painting, and that is what I'll be using. I'm just going to move the rubber part a little and take the bottom part of the paint. If you want, you can use a thinner to thin it, but for me, the thicker is the better. So I'm just going to cover the inner part of the eyes with white. This will be mandatory in case if you are using a brass or any other color of the face. Like I do this kind of an activity even for brass idols, okay. But in case if you are using silver, you may not need to use white. You can just leave it like that, because ultimately the silver color itself is like a white color. I'm just doing it so that the eyes doesn't have any reflection. So here you can see how I have colored the inside part of the eyes with white. Now I'm going to wash my brush. Now when you're washing, just make sure that you don't press the brush. The brushes are very delicate. So all you need to do is just move your brush like this and it washes itself. So now I'm taking a little bit of black. Okay. I start by drawing eyebrows. Now for the eyebrows, as you can see, we already have two lines defined here. Okay. This is the first line and this is the second line. So we are going to use these lines as guidance. But let me show you what happens in case if you are going to use the Lakshmi face. So for the Lakshmi face, what happens? The eyebrow line is very far, okay? And if you actually draw according to this guideline, that is the line of the eyebrow which is already there as given in the original mukuta, it becomes very high raised eyebrows, as if the goddess Lakshmi is surprised. Okay, so that is why I don't go as high as that. I usually go just above this bend which is there for the eyelid. Just above that I draw the eyebrows of Lakshmi. So we are going to do the same thing here for this face. Now another mistake that I have seen when people actually draw the faces is that they feel like, if they draw a little thick lines, it looks too much and they don't want it to look like that. So what they do is they draw very thin lines for the eyebrows and for the eyelids and the eyeliner and all. It doesn't really look nice, and when you look at it from the far, it looks as if the goddess is very angry and ferocious. Okay, so when you're seeing it from near, yes, thinner lines looks better, but after you finish the puja, you're always going to look at the goddess standing from a distance, and that is the reason why these lines have to be a little thick. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this part of the eyes using the thin line, and I'm going to draw this one using the thick line, so that you understand what is a mistake that many people make. Okay, now to draw the eyes, okay, eyes looks best if you draw it in the shape of a fish. Okay, so let me show you how to draw it in the shape of a fish. Make the first one go like this. It doesn't have to be, this tall. It can be a little small also. And when it comes to the down, it should have a small shape like this. And then go like this and come out. So this shape of the eyes looks very pretty. And this curve is nothing but the eyelashes. Okay, so this one you can either take it as you can either take a very sharp curve or you can take a gradual curve like this. Really doesn't matter. And then start covering it from inside using thick line. Same thing we do at the bottom. So this is just like, if you are able to see the makeup of any Bharatanatyam dancers, this is how their eyes look like. And they look really beautiful, isn't it? So that is what we are trying to achieve for the goddess. And then your eyeballs shouldn't be just be a dot like this. See how ferocious this looks, isn't it? So this eyeball should actually be touching the top line and the bottom line. And this is how the eyes should look like. Okay, so we'll try to achieve the same thing here. But we are going to follow the guidelines which is already there in the idol. I'm starting from this corner. Your paint should be very thin here at the start and also here. In between it has to be thick for your eyes. Okay, so the eyes is done. And you can see that they also have a second line over here. Okay, I'm just going to follow that upwards as eyebrows. Okay, and then I'm going to color the eyeballs. Sometimes it so happens that the mukuta that you get itself doesn't have such beautiful eyeballs drawn. Okay, it will have a very small eyeball. So please don't follow those guidelines, because in case if you are doing it, then the face is going to look ferocious. Your eyeballs always has to touch this line and this line. So this finishes the first part of the eyes for this one. Now for this, let me draw thin lines and show you how it looks. Okay. So there you go. So if you look at this, can you make out the difference? This eyes look ferocious, isn't it? Whereas this eyes looks saumya, as if it is pleasing and smiling. So that is the reason why I say that your lines should be thicker and your eyeballs should also be a little big. So I paint this eyes also in a similar way. And there you go, the eyes of Durga is ready. So now we need to draw the lips, but before we draw the lips, I just want to put a little bit of eyelid over here, okay? And I do it with a maroon color. So how do we get a maroon? It's by mixing red and black. So as you can see, this has got a little bit of oil on top of it. I cannot discard this much small amount of oil, so I'm just going to mix it thoroughly. The reason why I use backside of the brush to do it is because it's very easy to clean this. All you need to do is just take a bit of a tissue or a cloth, fold it like this and pull it. And you see, it's so easy to clean this. So I'm taking a little bit of red over here on a plate and just little bit of black at the tip of my brush, and I'm going to mix it. It started turning maroon. So depending on how dark you want the maroon, you can just add a little bit of more black. Okay, I want slightly darker maroon because I don't want it to look too bright for the eyes. Red eyes again, blood red eyes again becomes ferocious. So as you can see, this is the color that I'm going to use. I just draw a thin line on top of this eyes, okay? Just a very thin one on top of the upper lid. I don't start right from here. Even if I start, I draw a very thin line here at the tip. Don't make this look very fat. So the eyes of Durga is almost ready now. Now for the lips, what I have seen people doing is they just paint the lower part of the lips like this. It doesn't look very nice. You can paint it better if you can draw the upper lip as well. This goddess Durga fortunately has a very good lips defined, but whereas the Lakshmi face that we are going to get outside doesn't have the upper lip defined. And as you can see, this is the shape of the lips that I usually give. The edges of the lips is slightly turned upwards because the face looks very cute when the lips has that shape. Okay, and I'll just show you how to do this in case if your idol doesn't have that shape defined. So what usually happens in the mukutas is they define a line like this and they give the lower part of the lip. Okay, now what we do is we don't go to the extreme ends of the lips, we just go somewhere towards the end. Okay, make it go up a little, then come down, then again go up, come down like this. Okay, and these points should be equal. And this point that you are seeing, the middle point of the lips, should be exactly below the center of the nose. That is when you are going to get it very nicely. And then what I do at the ends is I just lift it a little up with the paint like this because it looks very pretty. Okay, and then fill the upper lip and the lower lip. So this type of a lip shape looks very pretty on the mukutas. Okay. But fortunately, our Durga is already having very pretty lips defined, as you can see. And I'm just going to follow this guideline. And also again here you can see the tip of the lips is lifted upwards. Okay, it actually gives a very cute smile. In case you have made a mistake when you are painting this, don't worry. Since this is an oil paint, this takes at least overnight to dry. And you have a lot of time to correct it. All you need to do is use thinner to remove the paint and repaint. Now if I paint as per the guidelines, this is how it's going to look. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go out of the guidelines and I just feel like this particular curve is not gradual, it's just all of a sudden it's gone up. So I'm just going to make this a smooth curve here and here. And here you go. So the lips is ready. Okay. So what I usually do for Lakshmi Mukuta is, though I actually use all of these kind of jewelries to stick on, I still use the paint to draw over here. The reason being, tomorrow if I lose this particular jewel, I don't want this face to be without a bindi. So that is why I just put a small bindi at the back side and then use whatever jewelry I have to stick it on. Okay, so you can do the same thing for this Durga, but I'm not going to do it here because the paint takes a lot of time to dry, and until it dries I won't be able to stick the jewelry and show you. So if you want, you can just draw the shape of the bindi just like what they have given, like this shape, just like as if it's the third eye and a small chandrama or a small moon, okay, and another small bindi at the bottom. So you can just draw it like that, or otherwise you can leave it and we can just stick the jewelry here. Now I have cleaned this brush using turpentine, okay, but this is not sufficient because the paint is an oil based. There will still be a small amount of oil in the brushes, okay. So what we can do is we can just take a little bit of soap over here in our hand, put a little bit of water, gather the bubbles, okay, and then just make circles like this on the hand with the brush and then wash it with water. So wash this brush with the soap like this for a couple of times and then dry this brush using a tissue paper or a piece of cloth, and that should be enough to maintain your brush. So just make sure that when you are maintaining the brush, again you retain all of these caps that they have given and close it like this so that it doesn't get damaged. Now to decorate this particular idol using the jewelry, what we get is we actually get small jewelries like this in the shops, okay. So I'm going to use things like this to actually decorate this Durga idol. You can actually stick these pieces of jewelry right on top of this and remove it like this whenever you want to wash it. And please make a note of the kind of glue that I have used. It's a reusable glue, which means that you can actually use this glue for a very long time. Like, at least if you're not going to remove this very frequently, then probably it will come for months and it will still have this sticky nature. Just make sure that you don't touch this glue with a oily hand or a wet hand. The brand of the glue that I'm actually using is Stick-On Multi-Purpose Reusable Adhesive. And when you open it, this is how it looks. And you will have to pull it like a rubber, see, like this. After pulling it, just knead it a little, just like we do it for M-seal and other things. And it is good to go. So for the earrings, there are various shapes of earrings which are available, okay. We can either use plain earrings like this, or we can use the designer one like this, or we can use other designs like this. There are plenty, there are like thousands and thousands of designs available in the market. So the one that I'm going to use for this Durga is this one, really big and grand jewelry. So I'll just take a piece of glue, stick it here and here, go. It looks very pretty. So if you're going to decorate right after you do the painting, make sure that you don't touch the painting because it's still going to be wet. It is going to take almost 24 hours, 12 to 24 hours to dry. Now for the bindi, I'm going to use something like this, okay. You also get bigger sizes in that. For Lakshmi face, you don't need a big bindi, you can use a smaller one, but for Durga face, you need slightly bigger one. And this becomes the bindi for Durga. And for the nose ring, because the nose is going to be very small, I'm going to use something like this. You also get this in red stones if you wanted to stand out. Okay, so now coming to this part of the crown, I'm going to use something like this for the crown. Okay, so this is just a part of a chain that we get in the jewelry shop. All I have done is taken the scissor and cut it according to the length. And to paste it, I'm going to take very thin glue like this. Okay, and I'm going to stick it. I'm going to stick 2 lines because we can see 2 lines over here. You can also use the anklets that you get in the shop, in the jewelry shop, which comes with stones. Okay, that also looks very pretty for the Mang Tikka. We get jewelry like this in the shops, okay? To stick it for the crown place. You get various shapes in this, various designs, but I usually prefer something that goes up and comes down like this, okay? Either you can use something like this, or you also get very tiny crowns like this, okay? So you can use that also and stick it on like this. Now for the Mang Tikka, this is just another design of earring that I have. I'm just going to use this and stick it here, okay, so that it looks like a Mang Tikka. I've got these kind of jewelry also. I feel like this place is very empty, so I'm just going to stick it here and here. So we are almost done. Only thing we need is putting a necklace for this. So you get very small necklace, you get a smaller necklace than this, okay, which is just like this. So you can buy those kinds also, or you can buy something like this and stick it here at the bottom of the earrings. And there you go. Durga Mukuta is ready with the decoration using paint and jewelry. So dear friends, I hope you have liked this video. If so, please click on the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.